Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 2023 Alasquatch Christmas special. We had such a good time with the Thanksgiving episode. We're going to stick with that format. We're going to do the same thing. I've got some members of the Boreal Bigfoot Research Group here waiting in the wings. They're going to come on and we're going to have a chat. I think we've got some more, hopefully, in the wings getting ready to attend. But right now, I'm going to bring in Jesse Desmond from Fairbanks.
Hey,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And Michael Thompson from Tok, Alaska. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too, sir, and
All
Jesse.
right. So here we are. It's Christmas time. I don't know about you guys, but I got a lot of snow. We cleared our deck off today because we're trying to keep it like at a manageable level where we don't have to like shovel like 5 feet of snow in spring. So we had about a foot out there, and we went out and like took care of it. And holy cow, I did that, and then I immediately like came inside and took a nap and slept for like an hour and a half. I was done, but I got my workout in for the day. So, what have you guys been up to?
We got about a foot of snow, and then we got a little more today, but I don't know how much today. So it's been shoveling and trying not to get stuck in the work yard. you know, our plow is kind of out.
We were about 5 inches. I had to plow the driveway, hook up the plow, and I have kind of like a lay down yard where I cut wood and things like that. So I had to plow that out and then access for the fuel delivery guy and our garbage guy. So I spent an afternoon plowing.
We've been getting warm. It'll snow and then it'll warm up, and it snowed, I don't know, a few inches yesterday, and then it got up to like 32, and it started raining. And of course, our plow guy came and did the driveway, and then it started raining. So now there's no traction. There's no like snow for traction, and it's all like glare ice with like ice frozen on it. And I wish, we live down here on the peninsula, the Kenai Peninsula, where it's like the banana belt, where we get like warmer weather than you guys. But I wish it would stay like 25 from like October to like May 1st, and then just get up to summer temperatures. I hate it. It gets up in the 30s, and it's horrible. It's horrible for the roads. It's horrible just for everything, because instead of snow, it'll rain, and it just wreaks havoc with everything.
Yeah, I live like right above the office here, and so like the shop yard is also kind of my yard essentially, and sorry, I'm right next to the dog door, and so like I almost got stuck a couple times.
Yeah, we live at the bottom of a steep hill, and we've been here long enough that we've kind of got to the point where we're like, we know if it gets to a certain point that we just don't even try to get out until like the city comes and plows. And that's kind of one of the things we learned over the years after getting stuck and having to get pulled out and having to have somebody come and rescue us. We kind of got to the point where we're like, we know when we can get out and when we can't. So we try and just, okay, we're going to have a day where everybody works from home, which I couldn't do when I worked at the police department. I'd have to basically walk out up to the street and have somebody from the police department come get me. I'd be like, if you want me to come in, you got to come get me. But yeah, so we got Michael and Jesse here today. It's Christmas time, so I thought, last time we did a Thanksgiving thing, we talked about what do Sasquatches eat, and I thought for maybe kind of a Christmas theme, which we certainly don't have to stick to it. We can jump all over the place, but I thought we'd at least start out talking about gifting and Sasquatch, and just like what do you guys think about gifting? What does gifting entail? Have you had any experiences with gifting, that kind of thing? And personally, I think a lot of gifting stories, which you guys know, I'm usually the skeptic of the group. I think a lot of them are probably things like ravens. something like that. Cause you hear people saying like, oh, I put this out or that out, it disappeared. And then there's these little stones or whatever, these shiny rocks show up, almost like payment. And I'm thinking like, if this is a, 7 or 8 foot creature, why isn't it bringing you like a huge, like a huge shiny rock, like a 60-pound shiny rock? Why is it like a little bitty pebble? So those are some of my thoughts on it. I think, ravens get pretty savvy and they understand the commerce in a way. I've heard of them like trading treats for shiny rocks and stuff. And I think that's probably what, and not all, I'm not saying that every gifting situation is that, but I just see a lot of people that show off their shiny rocks that they got from Bigfoot that are like this big. And I think in a lot of cases, those probably came from ravens or maybe some other kind of bird.
Or crows. Crows do that too.
Yeah.
There was a girl in Seattle who set up like a platform thing in her backyard and started becoming friends with the crows in her neighborhood, and they would bring her stuff. So
yeah. And again, I mean, if somebody can do that with a bird, I mean, it's not beyond the realm of possibility they could do it with a primate either. I mean, I think primates probably understand the concept and could be trained to trade things for goods and services. What do you think, Michael? Do you have any in the Sasquatch Tracker database, which is probably the best database of Alaska-based cryptid sighting or Bigfoot sightings? Do you have anything that jumps out as a gifting situation?
Not so much in the database, but personal experience from personal research. Several years ago, when the survival bracelets were very popular, the paracord type, we went to Michael's in Fairbanks and bought a sack of gold and silver beads. My kids made little bracelets with the gold and silver beads. We left this at a location out near the border where I used to be located. It spent the winter on we called it the Sasquatch lunch counter because it was like a flat rock. And it was like, this is where somebody would be to eat. So it was like a lunch counter type of a thing. So if you can kind of imagine that. But anyway, we left several of these bracelets out and didn't think anything of it. Snow came. Okay. Then in the spring, when we went back up, hey, do you remember sticking these bracelets here? Yes, I do. Let's go take a look. So we had gone down there, and it was, the idea was gifting, of course, to see what would be exchanged. But the bracelets the paracord had been untied, and then the beads were sorted by color, gold and silver, 2 little neat piles. So not necessarily a gifting experience, but something with an opposable thumb would have to take, to untie a knot. And then it doesn't prove that people or Sasquatches see in color, but at least can see different hues or tints because they were sorted by silver and gold. So that's my experience with that kind of a thing. Not really a give and take, but taking what I had and then rearranging it and presenting it back to me. So it was kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, we had something kind of similar at Area A. They had put out a jar of peanut butter, and they had taken the lid, not the lid, the cover. What's the foil seal? They've taken the seal off and put the lid back on. And I thought this was a brilliant idea. It wasn't my idea, but I thought this was a brilliant idea because, it's not like you're just leaving an apple. Everything in the woods eats apples. So everything would be interested in taking an apple, but not everything out there can get into a jar of peanut butter. So they put the lid back on, not tightly, but they did put the lid back on. Left it on a stump near the outhouse, which is where a lot of activity had occurred. And when we showed up, I don't remember if it had been out there all winter or if it was just for a couple of weeks. I want to say this was like the first trip out there for the season. So I think it might have been out there all winter. And for the life of me, I can't remember if the lid had been put back on or not, but they found the jar. It was just a few feet away from the stump. And there was still peanut butter in it. I mean, it was still like 3/4 of the way full, which I thought was odd. and there was some missing, like it had been scooped out, and there was a leaf inside the peanut butter. I mean, probably like I'm using my finger scale here, but probably, it was probably about that deep, like probably up to my knuckles, not my middle knuckles. And there was just a leaf like in there, and it was almost like something had been scooping it out with a leaf and then just left the leaf in there. And I thought that was just odd. One, because there was still peanut butter in the jar. I mean, you think wild animals would eat it all. Like, why leave any? And two, just the odd manner that we found it with the leaf inside and pressed inside too, not just laying in there, but like some force had been put behind it. Nothing, we didn't receive anything in return, at least not that we could notice. There wasn't anything back on the stump, but I thought that was really odd, and it was strange, and it didn't remind me of something that like a bear would do, or even like a squirrel or something. I don't think a squirrel would be able to get that lid off. And again, if a bear had found it, a bear probably would just ate the jar and all, or at least chewed the hell out of it. And it was, other than a little wear, like the label was damp where it got wet. There was maybe a little fading of the label. It was in perfect, pristine shape.
I know that my sister's dog can undo like a peanut butter jar, but she can't put it back. She can't put the lid back on. So, I mean, there are animals that can open it, but I don't know how many that can close it. Yeah,
I can't for the life of me figure out what would do that. What animal would put a leaf in the peanut butter jar and not eat all the peanut butter, especially if you had like an entire winter to work on it. No claw marks, no dings or scratches, nothing in the jar. But yeah, that was weird, and that's probably my only real like situation I could say that dealt with gifting. I've left a couple things out before, like apples and stuff, and had them taken. But again, I didn't have like everything in the woods eats apples. I mean, it could have been squirrel or any number of critter. But the peanut situation out there, that was kind of strange. And we've also wondered if maybe, because it did seem like after that peanut situation occurred, we had a decrease in activity. And somebody mentioned, I don't remember who it wasn't my idea, but somebody mentioned like, well, maybe because we left them something, and this kind of goes into the woo side of things. Maybe that was like a tribute to them, and they're like, okay, they've given us a tribute, so now we can leave them alone. Or maybe they had a peanut allergy and the peanut butter killed them. I don't know. Maybe they wandered off and died from the peanut butter. I don't know. But yeah, that was kind of the strangest situation I've ever occurred with, like leaving something out and having it tampered with.
I haven't really messed around with like trying to gift Sasquatch anything, so I don't know. I think I know what I would try and leave for Sasquatch, but I've never really had any experience with it.
Yeah, I've always heard that they like peanut butter, they like apples, but the thing that I've heard probably of them getting into the most, other than like animals, like deer, stuff like that, would be sweet feed for
Right,
like
I've heard that.
yeah, for like horses and stuff. And I've always like wanted to try that, but again, I think that's something that if you put it out in the woods, like every animal in the woods is going to want to eat it. Is the sweet feed. Bears and moose and everything else would probably want to get a taste of that. I like the idea of the peanut butter jar where you give them, they have to figure something out. There's like a puzzle for them to solve. They have to. It's something that like a bear is just not going to be able to wander up and open a peanut butter lid. He's going to chew the hell out of it probably. Although I have seen bears like open dumpsters and stuff that are supposed to be bear proof. So who knows? Maybe the bears have figured out how to get lids off of jars without leaving any marks. But yeah, I don't know. I think that gifting is probably one of those things that it's one of those like I want to interact. I want there to be something, that I can share with people that I say, oh, well, I did this with the Bigfoot and the Bigfoot liked my gift or whatever. And I'm sure maybe there are those occasions where it happens. Will Ulmer, he is always talking about when he's in certain campgrounds, he'll leave his recorder going, and it sounds like there's always something trying to get in his car. Like you'll hear his door handle being manipulated, but of course his door is locked. One of these days I'm going to have to tell him, like, dude, you're just going to have to leave your door unlocked and see what happens. Like is something, are they going to get in there and take something? Or I think one time he was actually sleeping in it and he didn't hear it. He heard it later on the recording. So that's kind of spooky. They're going to get a human burrito in a sleeping bag. But
yeah.
He should have a trail cam inside, like a motion activated trail cam inside the vehicle. So then when something messes with it, it'll start recording.
Yeah.
Then he'll know.
That's not a bad idea. I wonder if, because I know trail cameras will, especially mine. Like I walk down my driveway when I have a trail camera in my driveway, and I walked down there one evening when it was like starting to get dark, and I was like, well, damn, that thing, like I could see it. Like that thing puts off a light. There's like a red light on that thing. And I know like Moose can see it because I see him staring into it all the time. And I've often wondered if maybe a more low-tech solution wouldn't be better, like some kind of pressure plate or something that would set off like an old-fashioned like flash and film camera. But I don't know. I don't have the technical ability to function or to rig something like that up. But I wonder sometimes if maybe going more low-tech isn't the answer.
I know you can go to the Halloween store and get one of those animatronics with this thing that you step on, and then it does its thing.
I just need to find one of those skeletons that pushes a button that hit it on the camera.
So it looks like Rob Roy's watching us.
I know. I sent him the link. I think he might be traveling. I know he said he was going to go visit some family or something. So who knows what Rob Roy's up to? He's the most interesting man in Palmer. I don't know. I've noticed here recently, it's almost like Rob says I was outside snow blowing. It's almost like I've hit this like wall where I've like aged out of technology. Because I now, like when I'm just confronted with something new, like I got the new Call of Duty and I feel like such an old fud because I haven't played like the last couple of Call of Duties. And I'm like, what does that screen mean? What's that? I don't understand what's going on. And just like anything. And there was something else the other day I was messing with. And I was trying to get to watch the Charlie Brown special on freaking Apple TV. And I'm just like, why isn't it playing? It's supposed to be for free. I can't figure it out. And I'm like turning into my grandparents over here. Like I used to be like pretty tech savvy. And now I'm just like, I don't understand these newfangled things. And I can't figure it out. And like asking for help and shit. So I don't know. I think my like tech savvy days might be over with. I might have to go more low tech.
I just want to say
don't
that
feel left.
You could be watching something like Scrooged, or The Ref is pretty funny.
I wanted to watch Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown's kind of. I don't know. It like I was never a big Charlie Brown fan.
The music is amazing. It's like 99% of the music that I wanted to watch it for me. Yeah, I just can't figure things out anymore like I used to. I'm like, what is this? What does that do? What does this do? Like how in the world does this work? And it seems like things have gotten less user friendly, or maybe it's just me. I don't know, but maybe I need to go away from trail cameras and digital cameras and start like using film cameras, or get me like a Flintstones camera with like a bird in it that draws a picture or whatever it sees. But yeah, I don't know. It just, especially here in the last few weeks, it just seems like I can't figure anything out. But yeah, what do you guys think? You think Bigfoot prefers smooth or crunchy peanut butter?
Well, since I can't go shopping, I'm gonna say that Bigfoot's not gonna be picky. You know.
Rob Roy says it's called getting old.
It's good. Yeah, it is getting old. It's a apex scavenger as well as apex predator. So yes, what Jesse says, it's not going to be picky. It could be a year old, or it could be 6 months old, or 6 weeks old. It's still going to taste test it, I think.
So do you think that they're attracted to things that they can't find in the woods? Like if you hear about them being fascinated, like throwing rocks at like they would throw rocks at the skiff because it would make the ting sound.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they're fascinated with things like that because they can't? I mean, there's not like a lot of scrap metal hanging around in the woods, especially here in Alaska, up over by Area A. There's not like things that make metallic sounds. So do you think they get like fascinated by things like that, and they want to like, oh, let's go over here to where the boat is and see if we can get it to make that sound, because it's not a sound that they hear that often?
Should bring a tambourine next time.
Yeah. I think it was Les Stroud that was talking about the wind chimes. Does that ring a bell with anybody? He had set like the. Okay, I'm thinking of somebody else, not maybe it was somebody that Stroud had interviewed, but somebody was hanging up the dollar store wind chimes that had kind of like the clamshell, type of a thing, because that was a different and unique sound to the forest. And the idea was, of course, when the wind blows, that the animals are curious and would come to check it out. Don't know the results of that. I think there's a natural curiosity, of course, something new in the environment. Not skittish like a lynx. When you're trapping and things like that, that's hard because the animals are skittish around new things. But a higher intelligence, or something that operates at a higher level, is going to have a natural curiosity and want to check it out, and not necessarily fall for a trap. So
we had a little mirror. I mean, just probably like that big around that we had out there. I guess it's still out there. We kind of move it around every now and then. And I guess the hope was that we would find maybe some fingerprints on it. And I don't think we ever found any fingerprints. It did get moved around a few times, but again, it's not very big. I mean, it's like in a little plastic frame. It's about that big around. And it would get moved around from time to time, not far, just like we'd leave it on like this log and it would be like over here on the ground or something like that. But I don't remember ever finding any like dermal ridges or fingerprints on it. And I've often wondered, like, if you left a big mirror hanging on a tree and did one of those like two-way mirrors and put some kind of camera or something behind it, if that might work. But I almost think they would probably be like Mike was saying, they'd almost be afraid of it. I think probably by the time they got used enough to it, or familiar enough with it to like stand in front of it, it would probably, whatever like battery or power source was in it, would probably be long dead. But it's something I've always had in the back of my mind, is like the two-way mirror thing with Bigfoot. I think don't they put mirrors in zoos for like gorillas and stuff, or chimpanzees?
Yeah, sometimes, but I think they remove them every once in a while.
Or is that like a no?
And then like I think they do it for some of the other animals, like tigers and stuff. Like some of the bigger animals.
Yeah, well, I know some animals will like some cats. If you put a mirror in there, they'll think it's another cat and they'll get pissed at it. I guess it's hard to say what Bigfoot would do. All right, we've got Norm here backstage. Let's bring him out and let's give him a good cheers welcome. Ready? Norm.
My apologies. I was actually researching Sasquatch. But...
I think I think Norm would probably have a little bit to say about. Have you had any gifting experiences or stories?
Well, I've had a little bit of rock showing up randomly around the house that I couldn't explain. I also had a very odd case in which I was handling batteries in a battery charger, and they flew out up at my cabin, my remote cabin. Inside the cabin, I searched for half an hour. I was determined to find every battery. They were just double A's. Could not find one of the batteries. I gave up. I went away. I came back 2 weeks later, and there was a double A battery laying outside my front door of the cabin, about 15 feet away through a closed door from where I dropped the batteries. I can't explain it. Other than that, as far as personal, I don't think so. They're not springing to mind.
So these rocks that show up, how big are they?
Just a little bigger than pebbles, but not very big. And they'll show up. They have shown up on a ledge on the house, the home I'm in right now, and also on a couple of the big landscape rocks. They'll just randomly show up. And I remember the last time I checked with my partner at the time, and she had no clue how they got there. I don't know. It's just an oddity I noticed, but I wouldn't claim it as a positive.
Your battery story reminds me of Scott splitting mall at the area A. So he had a splitting mall, and he doesn't really like put his stuff up, like lock it up too securely, because I mean, who's going to show up out there, right? So he'll get done with something, and he'll just, he'll maybe set it under the deck or something, and it's good, like nobody's going to bother. And he comes out there one time, and he can't find his splitting mall, and he's like, "Where the hell is it?" And he looks and he looks and he looks, because there's only so many places. You know how it is, like you only use your splitting mall like over here by your stump where you split wood. It's not like you're going to take it over and leave it on the dock or something. So it's only a couple of places where it could be. And he looks and he looks and he looks and he can't find it. Goes out, and the next time he comes back, he's bought a new splitting mall because he's lost his old one. And he's like, maybe somebody stole it, maybe somebody did come by, maybe I misplaced it, and he brings a new splitting mall from Home Depot or wherever he gets one, and he brings this new splitting mall, and he's like, here's my new splitting mall, and there's his old splitting mall setting by the stump. So couldn't explain it. Like, it disappeared for, I believe it was some weeks. It was a few days, and then it just showed up. So that's odd, especially, and a splitting mall is, it's not little. It's a big thing, and where in the hell would it go?
It's also interesting. It showed up where he tends to use it rather than where he probably left it. So that implies that whoever returned it could grasp where it was going to be used and where it would be noticed, found again. So I think that's interesting.
Oh, hello, everybody. I got to run around scrambling to find my headphones. Apparently, that's like you were just talking about getting old and not knowing technology beans. The last time I was on here, it was a kind of a nerve-wracking experience for me because I was hearing our conversation like 2 minutes ago, the whole thing. So it was very confusing. I heard two sets of audio. Anyway, so Alex pointed me out. He said, you got to wear headphones. So anyway, I can hear you guys pretty clearly now.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. But it was driving me crazy. You guys were talking about the peanut butter.
Tell us about the peanut butter, Ron.
Well, no, you told them about it, but I thought you were the one. Remember, you went out and checked the stump basically, and you found the two. Remember, we put two peanut butters out there.
Yeah,
Weren't you the
I
one
think
that
one
found in the woods?
one was like unmolested, and the other one I think was open. Had been
They were
open.
both sitting together though, weren't they, in the woods?
Yeah,
Like
well,
somebody set
probably
them
like
together.
a few feet apart, but yeah,
Yeah, but it was a little strange. We thought.
yeah. And these are, I mean,
At the time.
what do you think? Those things probably weighed like 3 pounds.
Oh,
You know?
I don't know, but
It wasn't
yeah,
a
about that,
little jar of peanut butter.
they were the bigger jars of Jif.
Yeah,
So
it wasn't like a 2-pound squirrel was gonna hike that on his back and take it away.
right, and then lay them down next, somewhat next to each other. That seems a little weird. That seems human to me. That's what I kind of thought when you said that.
These things go together. I'm gonna keep them right here. Yeah, I don't know. I think there was definitely something going on. I don't think it was a bear. I don't know what it could have been. I think if it was a bear, they would have just ate the plastic and all.
Yeah, it was not chewed up. There were no teeth marks on it. That was what was so strange. Now inside the jar, it had there was only this much peanut butter in it, but there were little bitey marks, like mice had been in there because it was on the ground.
Yeah, well, that's a different time because the one with the leaf in it was like 3/4 of the way full, wasn't it?
No, that was the time. Was it?
Okay.
The leaf was smashed. I mean, it was completely smashed in the jar. That was the time Scotty and a guy, Kelly, and myself went. And,
Okay, I wasn't there for that one.
Yeah, it was at nighttime too, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And
I think I was there when we found it.
you were there the next trip, I think.
Yeah.
And we tried 2 jars of peanut butter. And I think which you found them not on the log, but they were both laying in the woods, which we were like, what? That's weird. But yeah, anyway, that peanut butter jar, it was odd how all 3 of us looked in the peanut butter jar when I found the peanut butter jar. We looked in it, and it's like a leaf, like a Devil's Club leaf. It was huge. It was a big leaf. Yeah, it was just like, I mean, you would have to smash it. If I could stick my hand in the jar, I probably could. You would have to like almost smash it into the jar. It was packed in there. And all 3 of us, the first thing we all kind of looked at each other and thought, you think something was scooping the peanut butter with the leaf? It just made sense. It's something we could figure why it was in there like that. But
would that count as tool use?
I would think so immediately. That's like a spoon.
Yeah, he doesn't want to get peanut butter on his hands. That's gross.
Right. Well, we were thinking maybe his hand was too big and he was using fingers or something to scoop it, or I don't know. It's just an idea. It could have been a squirrel.
We should have saved that leaf and swabbed it for DNA. I don't know. I guess I had peanut butter all over. What we're gonna do with it?
I guess, yeah. And there was mice turds all over, inside the, so you could tell.
Oh, was there? I don't remember that.
Yeah,
The mouse turd.
There was little mice turds in it. There was little gnaw marks. Like you could
thought
tell.
they were chocolate chips.
Yeah, we knew they weren't chocolate chips, but amongst all that was that giant leaf that was underneath all that. Even the mouse turds were on top of the leaf. But I know, a little mouse isn't going to take a leaf in there like that. It looked like someone shoved it in and was using.
Maybe they were moving in. They're like, we're going to put the mattress over here. We'll use the bathroom over here.
I think they were until we gave them that peanut butter. I think we killed them. I think they're allergic to peanuts.
That's what I said. I was like, because the activity kind of ramped down. After
It
that.
did.
I was
It
like,
stopped.
maybe we killed them.
They rejected the next 2 jars, and then
Well,
it was quiet.
That, or they think we've paid them a tribute, so they can leave us alone now. So, Norm, you have you found the peanut butter on a trail?
Yeah, it was on the winter trail that actually at the time was leading to McCandless's bus out on the Susquehanna River, where I have had some experiences, but this was well short of the bus. Packed winter trail, found a full jar of peanut butter. It was Skippy or Jif or something like that.
I think Squatches prefer Jif.
And at the time, I just thought it was odd, and I actually picked up the jar and I brought it back to the trailhead and stuck it on the car. I thought maybe were the owners of the peanut butter, but after that, I've always wondered: was it reverse gifting? Were they trying to give the humans peanut butter? Maybe they got so sick of humans leaving peanut butter for them, they were giving it back.
I don't know. I heard of a dude on. I think it was I can't remember if it was the Pacific Coast Trail or Appalachia Trail, and he was doing the trail, and to basically he was a little guy, and to keep his calories, like to get as many calories as he needed, he was like taking Snickers bar and scooping it in jars of peanut butter and eating it. And every time I hear about somebody leaving like peanut butter out, I always think about that dude eating the Snickers, and because it sounds delicious, but it's like he was doing it just so we wouldn't die on the trail.
I also had something that in hindsight struck me as interesting. I've spent some time on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and I had a Lakota mentor there. And she was one time explaining to me the habit of leaving offerings to the spirits, as she termed it, the spirits. And she said, when you cook a meal, have enough left over to put on its own plate and put it outside in the branches of a tree somewhere. What does that sound like to you guys? And a couple years later, I talked to this woman again, and she reported to me that Sasquatch sightings had really been kicking up on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. Maybe there's a reason for that.
Yeah, everyone's leaving them food.
Yeah.
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 Free
That
meal.
would be one reason. That would make sense. I mean, things are tough out there in those woods.
Actually,
No, if I came
growing up,
across
I
a
always
box of
heard about
snowflakes,
Sasquatch like stealing pies from windowsills, that kind of thing. So if there's something fragrant out there, I'm sure that they're kind of down to steal it or take it.
yeah, we've all heard the stories of them taking things out of coolers. So
Oh, yeah.
they kind of know what to look for. It seems like kind of maybe a little choosy too. It's like they just kind of grab the good stuff. But yeah, well,
Yeah, I heard somebody talking the other day about seeing one not in Alaska, it was somewhere else. Saw one in a park or something, and it was going through the trash, and it pulled it like out of all the trash. It found a McDonald's bag and like took it out of the trash and like tore it open, and I guess there was nothing in it, and was kind of just like
He
threw
knows
the bag
McDonald's.
down and walked off.
Yeah, I mean, he knows McDonald's. He knows the logo.
Yeah.
What have we done?
Oh yeah, see, we've done it. Why don't they just
It
walk
actually
through?
wouldn't surprise me if
drive-thrus?
they did recognize the logo from going through garbage.
Oh, absolutely,
Because
especially with the
it's
smell.
red and yellow, and I don't know if they can see red. I know dogs can see blue and yellow and black and white, and I don't think they can really see red. I think it comes up as gray for them or something.
I'm sure it has something to do with that. The colors, the logo, and the smell associated with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be
surely-
something with the scent for sure.
Yeah, like they probably. I mean, who doesn't like McDonald's fries?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
And
They're
if
probably
you can,
just like, oh my God, give me
you
those
smell the
fries.
trans fat, you're going to go for the trans fat. If you
Oh,
can smell
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Bigfoot's going through the drive-through right now, just walking through. But who knows? Someday, huh?
Yeah, that's Norm brings up a good point about chest freezers, and a lot of people, especially back in the day, used to keep freezers out on their porch. And Norm says he had a neighbor that was convinced somebody was going through his freezer, and he ended up putting a lock on it.
Mhm.
And that's something I've heard several times about something. It was on the porch, something was going through the freezer. It's a big chest freezer. It's not like a little squirrel or something can get into it. It had to be something big like a bear or a human.
And it was always meat, and he never found the door
Yeah.
open. It was-
I've got one. I've heard a story like that coming from Willow. They had a freezer. It was outdoors, and something had picked it up and walked about 10 feet and just dropped it, and it had opened and spilled the contents, and it was all full of halibut, and it took all the halibut gone. But they did find more like 16-inch tracks. So they were implying that it wasn't a bear. It was something that actually lifted the freezer and walked kind of away from the house with it, dropped it, and then went through it and then left. But, interesting story.
So was there other meat and it just took the halibut, or was it just
From what I remember, they said it was full of halibut. So
It would be interesting if it only took the halibut and left like moose meat or something. It's like, we get enough
Right.
freaking moose meat. Give me the halibut.
yeah, no, but that's interesting. But heard similar stories like that through the years. Them
Yeah.
digging through things.
One of the things I find the most intriguing is just how, like you were saying, they find the freezer door closed or the cooler lid's closed, but stuff's missing, or like the splitting maw disappears, but then it comes back. There's almost like this sense of like, I don't know if they're doing it to cover their tracks, or I don't know if they have some weird like sense of like, well, we owe it to them. You know, they gave us all this, so we owe it to them to leave things the way we found it, kind of like leave no trace. I don't know, like they've got some kind of weird code, but I just find that like intriguing. Why when you take stuff out of the freezer, why do you close the lid back? Why not just leave it open? Who cares?
Yeah, even
there's
Scotty's had stuff supposedly taken, he thinks, tools and whatnot, and then returned.
yeah. Well, I told the
always
story of
thought-
the splitting maw. Yeah.
Yeah. So personally, I always thought that it's just us being, we can't remember where we're putting stuff, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, not the splitting. The splitting maw is always over by that stump, though. It never goes anywhere.
Yeah, I thought through the years, there's been a couple things he's noticed that have kind of disappeared and come back, but
Yeah. Well, there was
interesting.
that old chair that's out there, that metal chair. Wasn't there like some coins or something found on it one time?
Well, I know the coins. I don't know if they're found on the chair. I know there was a couple things found on that chair though.
There was a rock on the chair one time.
There was one of the little net rocks on the chair once. I thought I remembered Scotty some. That little South American percussion instrument.
Yeah.
I swear he said that he came one time and that was on that chair once, and he said he didn't put it. It was not there when he left. He swears, but
I've got one of those. I've got a Squatch rock right here.
Oh yeah. Oh, awesome! Is that one I painted?
No, this is just one I picked up while we were out there. So
yeah, those things are interesting. They're pretty cool.
These things are all over the beach out at Area A. It's just a rock, and it's tied up in a net, and I guess they're used for weights or something.
Weights on the fishing nets. Yeah, fishing lines or nets. Yeah, I paint little Sasquatches on them and sell them in my shop.
I have some interesting rocks right behind me.
Nice. I can't really tell. They look small.
Like this right here, this thing, it's really super light, and I haven't tested if it floats. But it's from the area around Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh.
And it's like only found in that area.
Huh.
I have a little tiny rock that I stole from Skinwalker Ranch.
Wow.
It's my Skinwalker Ranch rock.
Boy, they just
rocks
caught on to you now. You
exciting.
should have said that. They're gonna catch you now.
The fed, there's gonna be like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Jesse's feed's just gonna go down.
Yeah, Jesse's feed just goes away. Gone. Never hear from her again. Yeah.
So
well,
Jesse said, if you were gonna leave something weird for Bigfoot, what would it be?
you know what I've always wanted to do? I've always wanted to make a sketch on a piece of paper of a Bigfoot and leave it out at Area A. But like laminated or something so it's waterproof, and just a little drawing of a Bigfoot and put it up there and just
See what happens.
see what happens. That's what one thing I would want to try. But
I'd probably try and leave something like I don't know, like I mentioned a tambourine earlier, and that could be something that they could carry around, or Norm came across these the story of like dancing Sasquatch or something, right?
Yeah, that was in Red Grossinger's book.
Oh,
Yes,
it was in
I
Red.
remember
okay.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that because I asked him about the mosquito situation, and I guess it happened in winter. Because my first thought was like, they're like, get these damn mosquitoes away from me. Yeah, like, yeah. And he said, no, it happened in like November or something, so there was no mosquitoes.
huh. Wow, dancing, huh? I didn't read about that one.
Yeah.
I think I found some other cases of it in like some native lore or something.
Maybe they had the mad cow disease. Maybe they
Maybe
got a
they
hold
did.
of some.
That's interesting. I've never heard a story an eyewitness saying they saw him dancing. That's a new one for me.
Whirling disease.
Huh? Wonder what they were dancing to.
I think
Oh, the Men in Black got Jesse.
Oh,
There she
ogres.
yeah, there she goes. You're gone. Just
You froze up, Jesse.
Oh,
We thought the Men in Black got you.
sorry. It didn't freeze on my end. No, I said the dancing Sasquatches that I found in the lore were like female ogres or something. Yeah,
Wow.
and it was from like the Washington State area.
Huh.
Uh,
That's a new one for me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys a quick story. It's kind of, I guess there's kind of a gifting element to it. So this was, I'm telling us like third or fourth hand. So I'm gonna fuck it all up. So just take it with a grain of salt. But there was these two brothers and their dad. This happened in like the 1800s, I think, in Washington. And there were these two brothers and their dad, and they were clearing some land, and they had cut down these big trees, and they were going to move them. And they had been waiting for the weather to clear up or something. And finally, the dad gets up one day and says, "I'm going to go out there and get those trees moved." And the brothers are like, "Oh, okay, well, hold on a second, we'll get our stuff and go with you." And he's like, "No, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it." And the brothers are like, "No, there's no way. These trees are huge. You're going to have our help." And he's like, "Don't worry about it." So he takes his horse's wagon or whatever and goes off to the land. And the two brothers are just like, "What in the hell is he doing? There's no way he can move those without our help. They're just ginormous. There's these huge logs." So the two brothers decide, like, we're going to go and see what he's doing. So they sneak out to where he's at. They sneak out to this stretch of property or whatever it is. And they're on this like overlook, and they're, they kind of low crawl up, and they're looking down to see, they're just trying to figure out what the hell their dad's doing, because there's no way their dad can move these logs by himself. And sure enough, there's their dad. He's sitting there. He's got his wagon parked next to the logs, and he's sitting on the back of the wagon, and he's drinking. He had his thermos with him, and he's drinking coffee. And sitting on the stump across from him is a Sasquatch, and the Sasquatch has coffee. He's pouring coffee for the Sasquatch. So this man and the Sasquatch have their coffee, and then the Sasquatch gets done with his coffee, and the old man points to the logs and points to the wagon, and the Sasquatch puts the logs on the wagon, and then he walks off.
Awesome. That's what I need. I need me a Sasquatch like that. Man.
Like I said, I'm sure I screwed it up somehow, but that's the gist of it.
It kind of reminds me a little bit like that story, that article I sent everybody. The Sasquatch pushing the little boat in the water, and then helping himself with some fish after the fishermen couldn't get the boat in the water. So it's kind of similar, but
Yeah.
Well, one of you guys was telling me that didn't the Sasquatch and the natives used to work together, and then the Sasquatch started stealing the fish or something, and they parted ways, or they didn't want to work with them anymore.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like that. It's they were trading and doing this. It started out innocently enough, but then the Sasquatch started stealing fish, and then they started stealing the children and the women. Apparently, now this is how I've heard. This is the story I've heard. I could be wrong, but this leads up to why Sasquatch are so elusive. Is the native men decided that the Sasquatch need to all be just wiped out. So in doing so, hunting these squatches down, the clans of Sasquatches, they learned to stop using fire, because that gives their where they are away. So that's kind of the reason they say they stopped using fire, and they started hiding from humans, is because the native men were hunting them down to kill them, to wipe them all out. Yeah. Because of that, the trading and whatnot going wrong.
Adam Davies actually mentions that in his, Revenge of the Hairy Man book, which is it's a fictional book, but it's based in Port Chatham. And the Bigfoot in the book actually they're more of like a really primitive tribe.
Mhm.
And they mention in the book, the Bigfoot mentioned how they used to use fire and they stopped because it would bring the humans to them, and the humans would always try and kill them. And
Mhm.
that's a point that Adam makes in
Yeah.
his, I think is it Revenge of the Hairy Man or Revenge of the Port Chatham Hairy Man, something like that. One of his books.
It is interesting. I mean, I always thought it was kind of an interesting. Well, that's a kind of neat way that why they stopped using fire and started kind of being more hidden. But I don't know if there's any truth to it. Who knows? Maybe they did trade with them hundreds of years ago.
I've heard multiple accounts of Sasquatches coming up to the campfires, after everybody goes to bed or gets in their tent and trying to like restoke the fire or blowing on it and just being fascinated with it. Yeah, waving the flaming log around.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Wake up and they're all dancing outside the fire.
Yeah. Well, there's one in Robert Alley's book of a woman on Prince of Wales Island, and she goes out to tend to the fire, and she sees the Bigfoot like standing next to the car or whatever, like watching the fire, and she says to the Bigfoot, instead of like freaking out, she's like, "Oh, hey, how are you? I just got to tend to the fire here." And when she said fire, the Bigfoot like points at the fire.
There's a story from like the 1860s called the Bigfoot Child, or at least that's what I call it. And in the story, like this older lady kind of comes across this Sasquatch child or whatever, and she like could communicate with it. It could understand some of the stuff that she was saying, and it could say a couple words. I don't know what those words were, but I know that they were simple. Like that's what was reported.
Yeah, that's one of the things I don't really want to experience. I
I
don't want to be out in the woods and just hear like the predator like wants some candy or something like that. Like I'd rather my Sasquatches not talk to me.
Well, I mean, they can mimic stuff like the babies crying and whistling, and they could probably mimic other animals in the forest and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like the Sierra sounds, they sound kind of Asian.
We were discussing this in my shop the other day. There is a show, I think it was Sasquatch Chronicles, where some people, their grandpa lived on this farmland for forever and ever and ever and ever, and he died, and he willed the property to the kids, so they moved onto the land. And I'm trying to make a short story out of this, so forgive if I miss details, but basically what they were hearing was their grandfather voice calling them from the woods. And it was actually even in like their grandfather's like voice. It sounded like him. And there were some other things like dog that he would call their dog or something like that. But it was actually mimicking not only, a human, but it was mimicking the human that had lived there for 50, 60 years, which seems, we know how to do it. So why wouldn't they know how to do it?
Well, do you think there's something nefarious behind that, or do you think it's just an animal just mimicking what it hears?
I think it is. I think they're smart enough to know it will. I think they're just getting a reaction out of us, whether they chuckle, hit each other. And
he came out of the cabin.
Yeah. Hey, beans, and you're like, what? I think they are. I think they get get some entertainment off our reactions. That's all I can figure. I don't know else why they do it. I hate to think it would be nefarious, and they're trying to lure you in.
I know that we have some ravens here locally, and if they're what kind of sounds they've been around, because they'll be like, hey, 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 and they usually repeat it a number of times, but they'll totally say words and stuff like that. And I think they're just mimicking because they hear it, I don't know
Yeah.
if they're looking for a reaction.
Yeah, there was a viral video there for a while of a raven or a crow. I don't remember what, like showing up on this guy's like deck, and it was like "F you, F you," and
that was a bird hanging out on your place for too long, Beans.
probably he was probably sitting out my window, and he's like, "That's what humans sound like."
Yeah.
They all say that in Toke. They didn't learn that from me.
I think they do. I think they get entertainment value out of it.
That's the sound I make when I shovel my deck.
That's what I used to. I got a new snowblower, so I don't make that sound anymore.
My snowblower's messed up. I've got to work. I say it every year, like every year around like August, September. I'm like, I got to get that thing fixed, and I never do.
Oh.
Now, what you need is you need one of those robotic snow blowers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Testing in Anchorage.
Yeah, I wonder how much one of those are. I saw that article. I was like, oh, it must be $1 million for one of those right now. But
No, I think it's just a couple thousand.
Good idea though. But
It's probably pretty similar to like the lawnmowers that they sell.
Right. The Vroom, the vacuum cleaners that go around your house like little robots.
Something similar, but for outdoors,
Right.
Because they have lawnmowers and they have snow blowers now. So if anyone's interested, you can.
Well, we've been getting snowed on a lot. It's snowing right now. I thought it was going to be a clear night tonight, and I went outside and it's snowing again. So, I would just finish shoveling and snow blowing and everything came in here.
That's what we need to do, guys. We need to buy a fleet of all-terrain Roombas, stick cameras on them, and just set them loose in the woods.
I wouldn't make it too far in this state, I don't think. That would be fun.
You got to put little tracks on them or something.
Yeah, little maybe a RC unit or something, little mini monster truck or something.
All you need is like some teenage boys, and they'll drive them all over the place.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're almost there. Sometimes I feel like a teenage boy still. Sometimes. Till something hurts, and then I realize I'm old now.
So I've been kind of wondering where Bigfoot would overwinter, because it gets cold. We just had a stint of like 25, 30 below up here for a little bit, and it's warm back up again. I think it stopped snowing at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just...
I think I want to go for like caves or some
like,
kind
where
of...
would they... And I've heard caves, and I was thinking maybe like old mining or something.
I would put it... I mean, I would think in that harsh environment like we have outside right now,
Yeah.
I would say how these things would tolerate that.
I mean, I'm sure
the
they'll
moose tolerate it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, so a mine that's a good abandoned cabins or caves, or some of those when trees fall, that their stumps rip up and they leave sometimes great big holes you can kind of crawl into. I think they would use something like that.
I think they're pretty much creatures of opportunity. However, I do wonder sometimes about the cave. Like, I don't see them putting themselves in a place that they can't get out of.
Mm-hmm.
That there's like where they would get trapped.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me wonder about caves sometimes. Like maybe in extreme circumstances, they'll get in one. But I kind of feel like they have their own dens or warrens or something that they maybe dig out of the side of a hill, and they probably cover it back up. I don't know. I have a problem with them going into a place that they basically are boxed in.
Yeah, no, I can see that. And the other thing is the nests. They find nests the Pacific Northwest. I'm thinking, I guess the Olympic Project found those nests. That wouldn't do anything in the wintertime. Maybe during the warmer months, that'd be a nice little, it's all they would need. But boy, in Alaska's harsh winter times, you would think they would seek some kind of shelter. So, unless they do migrate.
But when I was collecting stories, I stopped over in like Christochina and on my way up to Toke, and there's a lot of people out that way, and they said, oh, there's a tribe of Bigfoot. They live back on the back side of that mountain over there, and I think they're, but I'm not really sure which mountain. They would just kind of go over there behind the mountain, and it was like, okay, there's a bunch of them because you have
That's how I give directions.
National Park there, and they said, oh yeah, they live in a cave on the backside.
See, cave. There it is.
Yeah. But
Yeah, but is it like
around Fairbanks, we have a lot of like old abandoned mining areas and stuff like that. And I was just thinking that might be a somewhat decent spot, you know, if there's enough room to get in there.
it makes me, is it like a bear cave or like a mammoth cave where there's like multiple entrances and exits and, you know, like a cave system?
No one got that deep into it with me. There was multiple people who said the same thing out that way.
I don't know.
So I know that around here, out in Esther, which is just on the other side of like the university, basically, a couple of years ago, there was like one of those sinkholes that happened out along Gold Hill Road, and there was like an abandoned mining shaft that collapsed or something in someone's yard, or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I would think they would have it figured out by now. They've been around long enough to, like Beans was saying, maybe they do dig their own dens, you know, because they're mobile. They move around a lot, so they can't commit to one place. You know, they have to kind of be on the move. Although I don't know, Area A seems like they've been there a long time. I don't know if they come or go, or if they stay. I mean,
Maybe they have a winter accommodation and a summer accommodation. You know,
they're semi-nomadic, so there's a winter camp and a summer camp, and maybe even a spring and fall camp.
That would make sense.
And then based on like tree structures or natural vegetation, if they're doing anything in hillsides like denning or anything like that, I would think that it would be up high. High meaning like you could overlook a valley or something like this, so a natural vantage point. I'm working mine industry now, and so I'm always thinking about toxic gases accumulated in old mine shafts. So I'm a little bit, if they're going into mine shafts, that's not very far because that toxic gas will settle way back and down deep, but you don't need to go far to get out of the snow. So I do think that if there's caves and things like this that they're taking advantage of, they're also in locations because of the natural resources and food resources. So that's something, if we could get some kind of a cave mapping project or something, we could figure that out with the natural resources that are nearby. And that might be a good place for future research.
I would think too, if they use caves, they would know them really well. Or they would kind of, explore them so they know. Maybe they favor caves that have an exit, And
Bob went into that one and he never came out. Let's not use that one.
Right. Yeah. Don't go into that one. That's a dead end. That sort of thing. But
yeah. Norm, you got something?
Yeah, I actually have a data point on caves. I had a coworker in Denali National Park, and he told me about finding way up a headwater stream at over 3,000 feet, probably more like 3,500 feet, on a sloped hillside, finding a shallow cave. Maybe it would have been more appropriately called a rock shelter. I don't know. He described it as a cave. He went into it. So I don't think it was like a grizzly den where generally, you have to really squeeze to get into a grizzly den because they want it to be defensible too. And he found a bed in there, not a mattress. What he found was vegetation forming a soft bed, imported vegetation into the cave.
Mhm.
and he said it was roughly rectangular in shape.
Mm.
I did do some research, and grizzlies will actually bring vegetation into their dens, but I don't know. This one just seemed very interesting to me that he found a rectangular bed
Hmm.
that he could
That is
easily access up on a hillside with
Right.
great vantage point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
that's almost homeless man stuff. You know, if you find something like that that looks built. I remember one time it just kind of similar. I mean, I hiked down Eagle River a lot. One time I took a trail that kind of led me off onto this. It was more of a game trail, and I was going up the mountain. I looked to my right. I almost didn't see it, but there was like an old army pop tent
Mhm.
that had been set up, and it was just covered. Everything was covered in leaves. You couldn't see anything. It was fall. But if I didn't just catch it, I would have walked right by it. But it was open. It looked like somebody had been using it. And there are homeless people that every once in a while that you'll see in Eagle River. In Eagle River, so it's a small town, but they'll come through here, and I don't know. It's kind of creepy, actually.
Yeah, we had a homeless guy here in Homer, and he had literally built a cabin in one
Oh.
of the wooded areas. That I say cabin, I mean it was like a bunch of sticks that
Oh,
were stuck together
right.
and like vaguely like house shaped. And you could walk right up on that thing, and until you were standing right in front of it, you wouldn't even see it. And this is and this is in the middle of town.
Mhm.
Like here on the native property that's kind of behind the gas station down here, where there's nothing built. It's just all wooded.
Mhm.
And yeah, he was just living there, and he had like a little one room cabin built, and it was just completely,
Wow.
you walk right by, like you, Rob, you just walk right by it and not even
Yeah.
know it's there. You'd almost have to
I
be
mean, yeah, there was
standing right in front of it.
nobody in it, but it would be scary if he was there. What kind of reaction would he do? What would he do to me? He'd just sit there and say hi. But it was awfully. He he was purposely made it as far off the grid as he thought. I was just fumbled on it on accident, and yet there it was. But kind of makes you, homeless people and Sasquatch. Maybe their characteristics are kind of how they react to people is almost similar.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've established they steal pies off of windowsills.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
there you go.
they're basically just hairy hobos.
Oh, Bigfoot, where art thou? Yeah, well, I mean, they got to be opportunist. Anything that's there, I would. It's not an easy life to be a Sasquatch, I'd imagine. But
I'm surprised we don't hear about them stealing jack-o'-lanterns and stuff like that from people's porch.
the pumpkins,
Yeah,
I think the moose are too busy eating them.
I'm
Kids
just
steal
surprised.
them. Well,
They probably
teenagers steal them, so I'm not sure anybody would think about Sasquatch.
they probably did steal a few, and then they got tired of. They're like, "Why are these things full of wax?" And then they stopped.
Right. Ouch. Yeah. They bite the candle. That's it. I don't like them anymore.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think about Christmas cryptids? Jesse was mentioning that earlier in the private chat.
Christmas cryptids.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is Alaska has little people, right? We have all stories of little people, and there's a lot of little people within Christmas lore. You have like Christmas elves. You have the Tomta or the Lutins or the Niece. I think there's some Christmas fairies and stuff in there too. I don't know, like I haven't really had any stories come through my way about little people being really seen around Christmas, but it's just something to keep in mind, right?
Yeah.
So like the Tomta and the Niece, they kind of look like gnomes, with like the hats and the
Right.
boots and beards. whereas our little people look more like just native people, but I don't know, like 2 or 3 feet high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
One
little
of the-
people are kind of a mystery, that's for sure.
One of the craziest things I ever read. So this is back in the old school Bigfoot forums, like years and years ago. And I've always, like I said, I've always been interested in Bigfoot. I've always kind of like kept on it, but I've never really like, I wasn't always like involved in it, but I always like to read about it. And I remember one of the craziest things I ever read was this guy on the Bigfoot forums saying that the best time to look for Bigfoot was at Christmas Eve at midnight, because at Christmas Eve on midnight, all the animals in the forest will stop and bow down to Christ in all his glory. And if you could be out in the woods at midnight, you could possibly find a Sasquatch while he was paying reverence to the Lord. And
Wow.
that is the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Wow, I've never heard that. That's pretty nutty.
I think I've actually heard something like that, but it was like in some book that I had when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm like, well, I mean, that's pretty easy to like debunk. I mean, I've got a dog. I've been around my dog at midnight on Christmas Eve. He's never bowed down in reverence on on Christmas. I think we can go ahead and say, okay, that's probably not a viable option. But that's just one of the craziest, like, this is how you find Bigfoot things I've ever heard. And I've never heard any. I've only seen it that one time. I've never seen it again.
Came and went in the night. That was it.
Okay, I do have 2 creatures that kind of resemble Bigfoot, but are not Bigfoot, that are Christmas cryptids. So there's Krampus,
The Krampus.
and then there's I don't know how you pronounce it. It's like Strigeli, I think, or and they're like these kind of smaller than Krampus, kind of hairy creature things that Perkta kind of is seen with and stuff like that. And she is a Christmas witch. But they all come down from the mountains. That's what they all have in common.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always those darn mountains.
Yeah.
That hides all the cryptids.
Mountains, boulder fields. Yeah.
I'll tell you real quick, I did have a homeless guy come into my shop the other day. And I did ask him, I didn't intend this to go this way, but he started this weird conversation. So I asked him, after he kind of explained to me that he had been living in the woods a lot. He's basically homeless. And I said, well, have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen anything weird? And he says, like what? And I said, like Bigfoot or anything. And he says, no Bigfoot. He says, but I've seen trolls. Trolls are there. He says, they're this big. He was about his waist high. He said, I've seen trolls. Trolls are all over out there. And he started pointing over across the mountains over there. And I'm kind of like, whoa. But that's kind of Christmassy. That was just like last week. So, I don't know. Christmas trolls.
Mm-hmm.
Could be little people.
In Iceland, there are Christmas trolls. There's the Yule lads. So, and their names translate to like spoon licker and spear gobbler and stuff like that. And they'll lick your spoons and they'll eat your yogurt and I don't know, they get into mischief and stuff like that.
Well, where is it over Sweden? Where is it they believe in trolls and ogres and they'll actually build highways around stones and whatnot because they live under stones?
In Iceland, they'll do that. That's Iceland. Then they have like a lot of troll lore and stuff like that in like Sweden and Finland and Norway.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty weird. I don't know. I can't see these engineers standing around arguing over a boulder and a troll. You know.
Sometimes they'll just pick it up and move it, you know. So
that'll take care of the problem, huh?
yeah, because
The troll just goes with it.
For Iceland, the big thing are the elves. You can go to elf school if you visit Iceland, and do like a day course in learning about elves. Apparently,
kind of interesting how they have elves and gnomes and whatnot, and we have little people.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's the same, kind of entities, kind of like Sasquatch, but they're kind of all over, but we call them different things. But
the proto-pygmies up here get called little Bigfoot or baby Bigfoot because of the similarities.
You think, and that's what some people refer to as trolls?
I think so, yes. Yeah. The proto-pygmy type that are living here, yeah.
Interesting.
Do you know the Culp story?
Yeah. Strangest story ever told.
Do you think what? Do you think that's what those creatures were that they were talking about? Because I think they referred to them as like hairy devils.
Yeah, hairy devils. I always thought they were Sasquatch. But
yeah, I wasn't sure if that was like Sasquatch, if it was something a little smaller.
I heard a crazy explanation for that it was actually a bunch of shipwrecked Chinese guys.
Oh, that makes sense.
And I mean, if you think about it at the time, like people weren't educated like they are now, and you see like,
oh, that was so bad Jesse had to leave.
And this guy
I got my copy of my book.
Oh, so that's the same one I have.
Yeah.
If this is if what we're talking about sounds interesting, you should check this out.
Yeah, it's a good book. It's a good
story
read.
We're told it's very it's kind of thin. It's not too
long. It could be called the quickest read ever written.
The shortest story ever told.
Shortest story ever told, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
I always thought they were Bigfoots, but maybe they were something else. Yeah. It's always fun to think about.
Well, there was some kind of Chinese like cargo ship or something that went down in that area or went missing in that area, and then that guy comes along and has his experience, and they're thinking like maybe that might have been part of the crew that had been shipwrecked, and of course they probably don't speak English, so they see somebody and they're like
they were running out of them. Yeah,
they're just like help us, and he's just like and of course I'm sure they look horrible because they've been shipwrecked for God knows how long. And I think he said they had like open sores or something.
Yeah, open sores were oozing and all these details.
Which is, scurvy, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so he's getting chased by these like poor stranded bastards. And he's just like,
don't run, and run.
They're just jabbering at him in Chinese, like,
so yeah, that might sound kind of terrifying.
Oh, and this
probably more likely
took place in like 1908. So yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's a good story, though. Oh, the first time I ever heard about little people, they were described to me, I thought, as like 3 foot tall, hairy, like hairy little demons. You guys know about the illustration I did in the story, but that's how I first was introduced to little people. I was in the early 70s. I was just a little kid. And that was my neighbor's father, who was a commercial fisherman, who stopped us in the tracks, told us.
Michael, do your proto-pygmies, are they hairy or do they wear clothes? I don't remember, or both.
Similar looking to like Boreal Sasquatch covered in fur. There might be a little bit of clothing use. If it's something that's been stolen from a camp or a dwelling, not something they manufacture. I know that there are lots of, when people describe when they hear them, it sounds like an ancient language. So it's almost like they're communicating back and forth, like you can tell, verbs from nouns and things like this, a structure to it. Other than that, I don't have too much information on it because that kind of thing doesn't get reported too often.
Right.
The stuff I've heard is they're like small. They're like humans, but they're just very small in stature, and they're super fast. They're super strong. Like one can carry a whole caribou on its back. I've heard that there's been some bush pilots that have seen them while they're flying over, an area, and that they live usually like underground, like under the hills or, under a mountain or something like that. So, all right. So, I grew up in North Pole, which is just outside of Fairbanks, right? And I know that most people don't believe in Santa Claus, but there are actual sightings of Santa Claus, and there are some commonalities within like these certain stories. So there's always a person who's in need of something, right? And there's a happy figure that comes to their aid. And usually like upon the departure, like where they split for whatever it's going on, the person says something or gives them something that they just have some extra knowledge that's kind of inexplicable. So like I could give you an example, like if there's a guy, like let's call him Tom. If Tom is on a business trip and it's right before Christmas, and his wife is in a different city and she's pregnant and she starts going into labor, and he gets his phone call and he's like, oh man, I can be there. I can try and get there as fast as I can. But maybe like all the flights are booked or something. And then there just happens to be some kind of jolly person who goes, hey, I'm a trucker. I can give you a ride to that town. You'll be there in like 3 hours. And the guy's like, okay, cool, no problem. And there's really nothing eventful about the trip itself. But when the guy like drops Tom off, he goes, oh, well, tell Anna and Jacob that I said hi. And he's like, who are you talking about? And he doesn't think anything of it. He's going inside to see his wife, and he gets in, and his wife has already had the kids. And she's like, oh, I named them Anna and Jacob. It's like this weird, inexplicable thing. And, maybe was that Santa? Like, that's the kind of Santa stories that get reported. When they do, they're very far and few between. And I hear them every once in a while, and I haven't found anyone who actually collects those stories. But I think they're kind of interesting, because it's hard to say if it's like a person doing a good deed or if it's like a Santa story.
Yeah. Well, if tulpas are real, wouldn't Santa Claus be like the ultimate tulpa? Because I mean, how many kids believe in him?
I don't know. Like, do kids believe in Santa nowadays? I don't even know.
It's like every one of us, maybe for a split second, we did.
I like to think that Santa might be real. I don't.
Well, we all would. But I have an older brother, so he blew it for me before I even had a chance to even. Rob, Santa's not real. He ruined it for me.
Well, part of me goes, Santa's not real. And then the other part goes, maybe. You never know. Maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
how much can one being do, right? Like, you can only do so much.
Oh my God, I've got a Santa story. So I was in Soldotna the other day, and I'm in the store, and this guy walks in, and he is in like the most realistic Santa Claus outfit I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it is like on point. And he's carrying food and a drink from Dairy Queen. And he walks up to the cashier, and he's like talking to her. Obviously, this is her like significant other or something. and I'm waiting in line to check out. And I look at him and he looks at me and I said, "Did you get my letter?" And he goes, "I get a lot of letters." And I said, "Now look, I know revenge really isn't in your wheelhouse, but I've been really good this year." And he didn't laugh. And he just kind of said like, "Oh, I get a lot." He goes, "I get Amazon lists these days," or something like that. And then he like takes his food and goes in the back. And then it was my turn to like check out. And I told the lady, I was like, "I don't think Santa thought I was very funny." And she's like, "He's just hungry. He just needs to eat."
He's low sugar, a little cranky, a little angry. Oh, that's
Well,
too
I mean, just to be fair, we do have Chris Kringle. Like he's on the city council for North Pole.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not telling us everything. Huh?
I was in. Well, you'd be surprised how many people don't believe that North Pole exists. I was in the army with a guy from North Pole, and he would tell stories about like when he was a kid. You know, when you had to like call and order things, like all before the internet, you had to like call a business and be like, "Hey, I want one of these things. Send it to me." And he said they would call to order stuff, and they'd start to give their address, and he'd be like, "North Pole, Alaska," and they'd be like, "What kind of joke is this?" And like hang up on them because they didn't realize there was really a place called North Pole.
I think we had some issues like that when I was growing up. I don't know. I didn't do a lot of ordering when I don't know. I didn't order a lot of stuff when I was growing up. So
Yeah. Well, I was listening to a police podcast. I listened to, well, it was the Poorly Made Police Means podcast. I was on there last year. And he did a Christmas episode, and he's like, "We're going to talk to somebody from the North Pole Police Department." And I'm like, "Oh, I wonder who it is." And I start listening, and I'm like, "I don't think this person's really an officer on the North Pole." And it ended up, it was a joke. Like, it was like a skit they were doing.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, "You realize there really is a North Pole Police Department?" Like, and I know some of those dudes. I was like, "Who is this guy?" All right, guys, we're at about an hour and a half. Anybody else got anything? I think I'm about ready to call it.
No, I had Banjo was here trying to say hi to everybody for a second there, so you might have saw him. But
Oh,
he
we
says
missed
Merry
Banjo.
Christmas.
Saw that.
He was here. Now he's laying down, of course. He was bumping my mic, and he wants to go outside.
Well, you better take that puppy outside.
Yep.
Norm, you got anything you want to promote or tell the people about?
Nah. I'm just plugging away my research.
Norm abides. Rod Roy?
No, not. I just want to say hi, and it's good to see everybody.
Maybe
And,
come to the Bigfoot Art Gallery in Palmer, Alaska.
Yeah, come on in. Everybody seems to be. Boy, this week has been so busy. Oh my God, I'm just.
Well, you know why? Because you can't order anything and get it here on time anymore. Freaking
No, you can't, so
postal
they come in.
service is like
But
this new Ground Advantage stuff is just ridiculous.
I don't know. It's just I can tell. I can tell it's Christmas. I can tell it's getting closer. It's getting busy. It's like a revolving door right now. So it's good. It's a good busy. It's nice to see.
Yeah.
But
I registered for the Golden Heart Classic bodybuilding show, which is going to be up here in
right on.
Fairbanks in
wow.
the end of September. It's with the IPL, which is the International Physique League. So I know it's not cryptid related, but I'm pretty proud of myself. So
Well,
if you want to train, you can come down here and shovel my deck.
Right. I was going to say there's plenty of opportunity.
I just shoveled half of a deck today. So
Oh, yeah.
and then I also hit the gym this morning. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're
Nice.
on your way.
Michael Thompson, the Sasquatch Tracker.
Nothing to report from Toke. We had several Christmas bazaars. I like to go to those and talk about Sasquatch with people and also sell, little trinkets and things like that. Very successful. So I'd like to thank all the community members at Toke for their support on that, and just to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Awesome.
Very good.
Hey, Jesse, is is there still Boreal Bigfoot Expo gear available on the website? Can you still order stuff from there?
Yeah, you can go on there and order from the online shop.
Okay. Yeah, I
Cool.
was thinking the other day what was I doing? I was doing something and I was like, you need to, like support these expos. And I couldn't remember if there was still swag available or not. So I didn't mention it, but yeah, I don't know. We're not having one in 2024, but who knows in 2025, maybe we'll have another one. So if you want to kind of jumpstart on that and help support it, you can go over there and buy some swag for the Boreal Bigfoot Expo. You can go to, if you want to support me and my endeavors, you can go to the Alasquatchpodcast.com website. You can go to the store, buy yourself something nice, buy one of my books. I'll autograph it for you. And also pick those up on Amazon.
And the Bigfoot Art Gallery.
And the Bigfoot Art Gallery, if you want to pick one up in person.
Yeah.
In Palmer, Alaska. And we are the Boreal Bigfoot Research Group. This is the Alasquatch Podcast. I'm Beans Baxter, your host. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope we informed and entertained you with our talk. And look for us on here again sometime soon with some more interesting Alaskan cryptid stuff. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.